NFL players really do over their offseason.
With the NFL voluntary workouts starting back up and the draft and preseason right around the corner, we are just months away from football kicking back off. With that being said, it only seems right that we take a look at what some of the biggest names in the league got into over the offseason. Up first is arguably the most talked about player of the 2023 NFL season. 1. Travis Kelce. Despite already establishing himself as one of the best tight ends the game has ever seen for years, Travis Kelce has never been more popular than he is right now. His relationship with Taylor Swift took him from being a household name to football fans to arguably the biggest name in the entire NFL. His offseason kicked off with a bang after winning the Super Bowl over the San Francisco 49ers. Following the game, Kelce, his brother Jason, Swift, and some of his Kansas City Chiefs teammates were seen celebrating their big win late into the night in Las Vegas. Following this, he has consistently been recording for his podcast New Heights with his brother. However, after a crazy offseason, he locked back in during early April to get back into football shape. It is clear that Kelce has no intentions of slowing down in his 12th season and plans to continue being Patrick Mahomes' favorite target. Up next is a young star on the defensive side of the ball who has quickly become one of the league's most notable names. 2. Sauce Gardner. Similar to the 2023 offseason, New York Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner put on his recruiting hat during his downtime and hit the trails in hopes of further beefing up the Jets roster. Last season, this effort was successful and landed the team quarterback Aaron Rodgers. While things did not pan out for Rodgers and the Jets with the veteran quarterback going down with a season-ending injury just minutes into the opening game, they are once again primed to be Super Bowl contenders if they can stay healthy. Gardner took to Twitter to announce, "Sauce is finally here. For y'all that don't know, that's my recruiting name." He fired off another tweet in hopes of landing 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, saying, "Ayuk is one wide receiver I see who gets open the majority of the game but don't get thrown the ball. And he can win in contested situations, so even if he's not wide open, he should get the opportunity to make a play on the ball instead of throwing it away." Sauce, GM. He alluded to Rodgers being the first piece of him building his dream roster around him, saying, "I know a lot of y'all are skeptical about how Sauce recruits. First, I start by getting an elite QB. Then, I get the wide receivers that I know could win a 7-on-7 tournament. Then I get an O-line to protect my elite QB so he can throw to them, then I move on." While he was unsuccessful in getting a truly elite wide receiver even with his constant recruiting, New York's actual GM stuck interestingly close to Sauce's game plan. Not only did they bring in former Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams to add to an already loaded receiver room, the team also signed 8-time Pro Bowler Tyron Smith at the left tackle position to protect Rodgers. Along with his work on the recruiting trail, Gardner also spent time streaming on his extremely successful Twitch channel. Over the offseason, he made appearances with popular streamers Aiden Ross and IShowSpeed. However, his appearances were not limited to the streaming world. He also recently featured on LeBron James's show, The Shop, alongside Travis Scott and Ice Spice. While this was an extremely eventful offseason for the young cornerback, it is clear that he is locked in and ready to play a key role in what could be the Jets' first deep playoff run in years. Up next, we will take a look at Sauce's teammate at the quarterback position, who he spent a good chunk of the offseason trying to recruit offensive weapons for. 3. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has had a rather quiet offseason, all things considered. His main focus has been on recovering from the Achilles tear that more or less brought his and the New York Jets season to an end after just 4 offensive snaps. It was rumored throughout the season that if the Jets were in a position to make the playoffs, Rodgers was going to make an unheard of return to the football field just months after an injury that typically takes a year to recover from. When talking about this recovery process, he was quoted as saying, "I was really thinking, this is it. You don't come back from this injury. I had this incredible offseason experience in a new city, in a new town, with new teammates, a new organization, an owner for the first time, and really falling back in love with the game that I first fell in love with when I was 5 years old. And then, one of the most heartbreaking nights of my life, when I played for 4 plays. Talk about an ego death. I said, I need help. This is going to be really tough. I'm excited about playing again. I love playing. I fell back in love with the game and then I had it taken away after 4 plays. I miss being out there. I love competing. Only in that has all this beauty been able to happen in the last 6 months, so how can I not be grateful to the universe? She is a beautiful teacher. However, being one of the most talked about players in the league, it was impossible for him to not be in the spotlight some over the offseason, even with him focusing on recovering. He made headlines for being mentioned by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as someone that he would consider being his vice president if he were to win the election in 2024. Along with this, he has made weekly appearances on the Pat McAfee podcast where he has had a handful of quotes and sound bites that made their rounds online. This could end up being a career-defining season for Rodgers if he is able to lead the Jets to a deep playoff run, and could bring his career to a beautiful end if he is able to ride off into the sunset with a Super Bowl ring. Now we will look at the centerpiece of arguably the biggest trade of the offseason. 4. Stefon Diggs. Through the 2023 season, it was clear that something was a little off with the Buffalo Bills. While they were able to pull it together in the second half of the season and make an appearance in the AFC Championship, throughout the season, there was something brewing behind the scenes. It would later become clear that there was some sort of disconnect between quarterback Josh Allen and star wide receiver Stefon Diggs. This led to Diggs spending the tail end of his offseason moving from Buffalo to Houston as he was traded to the Texans in a blockbuster deal. The trade sent Diggs, a 5th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick to the Texans for a 2nd-round pick. This pairs the elite veteran receiver with arguably the most talented young quarterback that the league has to offer. Following the trade, Diggs did not take long to take to Twitter to like posts saying that the Bills have the worst fan base in the league and insinuating that Allen would not be looked at as one of the league's top quarterbacks if it was not for him. Diggs will join an already loaded receiver room that features Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Along with Diggs, Houston was also able to add Joe Mixon at the running back position to give Stroud one of the most loaded offenses in the league heading into his 2nd season. Rounding out the list is a player who was in the headlines this offseason for all the wrong reasons. 5. Rashied Rice. Coming off of a Super Bowl in his rookie year, things were looking up for Rashied Rice. He was poised to be the number 1 wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. However, that is now all up in the air following his offseason incident. He was involved in a high-speed hit and run where he was allegedly driving a Lamborghini SUV at 119 miles per hour before he lost control and caused a 6-vehicle crash. The crash injured 4 people, and he is now facing both criminal and civil cases. Not only was he charged with aggravated assault, but he is also being sued for over $1 million in damages and $10 million in punitive damages. While things will likely continue to play out in court throughout the season, hopefully this will be something that he can learn and bounce back from.